Hello. It's 35 degrees out and obviously I'm shooting a YouTube video. I'm just gonna preface this by saying that some of the content in this video comes from a Facebook post that I wrote back in February of this year, and I thought having a visual representation of what I said might be helpful. I've been taking Latin since high school, in the beginning because I wanted to be in the same class as some of my middle school friends. Here, let me draw a picture. So, this is me, and these were my friends taking Latin, and I wanted to join them. But as I would later find out, there were actually two sections for the same class, and naturally I was put into the one where none of my middle school friends were in. And that was kind of devastating for the 14-year-old me, and I immediately thought of dropping the class. Because let's be honest, what's the point of studying a dead language anyway? You can't speak it? I mean, you can, but like, no one does that now. And knowing Latin isn't gonna help you a lot with your future career, except for maybe if you want to become a teacher, a historian, an archaeologist, or something along the line. I ended up not dropping the course because I wasn't taking so many classes anyway, and I thought it would be cool to impress others saying, oh, I knew Latin. It didn't impress a lot of people. And now looking back, I'm kind of glad I didn't, and there are three main reasons for this. Reason number one, it opened up a whole new world of culture to me. The basis for all Romance language and many English proverbs come from Latin. This is the ancient Roman Empire. God damn! This is the ancient Roman Empire at its greatest extent under Trajan in 117 AD. It incorporated lands from modern-day Great Britain to Egypt, from Portugal to Iran. Now that is a massive part of the world, and the ancient Romans had control of these lands for an extended period. What this means basically is that the language spoken by the ancient Romans, Latin, had influence on most, if not all, the languages spoken today in these territories. The most evident example is Italian, which sounds and reads almost exactly like Latin. In fact, when spoken slowly, Italian could be understood by most people who have taken some kind of Latin lesson.
Salve!
Hello there.
Come stai?
Benissimo.
The same idea with Spanish, and grammatically speaking, German is very similar to Latin in that it has 4 of the 6 Latin noun cases, although note that German is not a Romance language.
Mango. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? Mango.
The ancient Romans also left many artifacts throughout Europe, and it is only with Latin can we be able to understand what the inscriptions on them read. And it's a great way to visit other countries. So like in addition to visiting the most touristy sites, one could go to the archaeological sites, which are oftentimes a lot less packed. Reason number 2, I got into my first choice college because of it. In my senior year of high school, I applied to a lot of top-tier colleges in the US, and therefore needed a way to separate myself against other near-perfect candidates. And let me tell you, I was nowhere near perfect, and that's where Latin came in. And I must admit at this point that I was very fortunate. To begin with, Latin is not something that every student learns, so by showing I was doing it was already a plus. Secondly, heck, I was really good, winning several prizes here and there through exams or writings. And I think most importantly, I had a really passionate teacher who motivated me to study more. Having a good teacher is so important. She incorporated real-life examples of Latin being used in her class, and the enthusiastic tone with which she spoke about Latin was really contagious, to the point where I actively wanted to learn more on my own. Oh, just a disclaimer, I didn't buy these off of the street, okay? I got them, but I just never opened their packaging. Reason number 3, and what I think is the most important, it provides a method of contemplation. Especially in a busy world that we live in today, there are times when we get too preoccupied with work and not take the moment to appreciate what we're doing. And this is even more true when I went to the US, where I saw this trend of always working, or at least seeming to be always working. The situation is further worsened at school, where everyone is doing internship interviews and similar things, in addition to the burdensome work given in class. And some people even post Instagram stories just to show others that they have so much going on. But that's a separate topic that I want to get to in another video. Anyway, the huge amount of stress can be overbearing, and so to relax, I would go on runs and meditate at nearby parks to take a break away from the almost toxic environment. And it works, but for some reason, not as much as reading Latin. At least not for me. What's special about Latin is that it forces you to leave the present, forgetting all that there is, and focus on what's written. See, Latin, like German, has many cases.
Okay, this is like a very elementary Latin grammar lesson. So there's the nominative, which is the subject of the sentence, the genitive, which is the possessive, the dative, which is the indirect object, the accusative, which is the direct object, the ablative, which has so many uses, definitely a lot more than what's written here, and the vocative, which is used for direct address.
And remember, all these cases are only for nouns. For verbs, there are different verb tenses and 5 conjugations. So all in all, the grammatical structure is very complex and really forces you to think a lot. And this is not to say that, Latin is the only way. Other methods such as going on runs or meditation, as I mentioned before, can be soothing as well, and most probably effective to the same extent. You can also do this with other languages, especially those with a rich history, I've noticed. But I think what separates reading Latin from me is the other 2 reasons, and this really makes me appreciate learning the dead language. And I would encourage anyone who has the time to at least take a look at some of these classical Latin sayings or inscriptions, preferably in their original language. If not, in translation is not that bad either. Taking a few minutes to appreciate the meanings behind some of these classical sayings will definitely be a worthy investment of your time. And hopefully you will find it relaxing as I do.
Also, do you guys see the difference in the skin color? I'm so tanned. Jesus.